and welcome back to another video. So today I decided to do the rapid fire book tag, and I was actually tagged to do this by Isabel Reads 0314. I believe that's her username. I will leave her linked down below. So I thought this would be a really fun thing to do in a video, and I absolutely love tags. I love watching them on booktube, and I would love to do some more tags. So thank you so much, Isabel, for tagging me in this. I really appreciate it. All right, and if you see me looking down in this video, it's because I have this notebook here where I wrote all the questions because I did not memorize them. But the first question for the video is ebook or physical book? And I would say that I personally prefer a physical book, but I will read an ebook from time to time. I just like the feel of physically reading the book, and also it doesn't cause as much eye strain, I feel like. It's just easier for me to read the physical book than in the ebook. But I do read e-arcs, and I will read ebooks if I don't have a copy of it physically. All right, so the next question is paperback or hardback? And I would say paperback only if it's a floppy paperback. If not, I would go with a hardback. I don't like the really stiff paperbacks because you can't read those easily, but I'd say that floppy paperbacks are so much easier to read than hardbacks. I just don't like it when you have to break the spine in on a paperback. Like that I don't like to do because I feel like I'm damaging a book, and it's just harder on my hands and harder to read like that. So I would say a floppy paperback if it's easy to kind of flip through the pages without having to break the spine. And I think that it's better for my shelves anyway because just the weight of the hardbacks can be too much for my shelves sometimes, and they're a little bit delicate, so I try to limit hardbacks as much as possible. All right, the next question is trilogies or series? And I think I would say that I prefer trilogies, but only if it's very well done and the middle book doesn't have middle book syndrome. So my example for this would be the Hunger Games trilogy. I absolutely love that trilogy, and I would say that the middle book is my personal favorite, and it's one that really doesn't suffer from middle book syndrome. But there are so many trilogies that I've read that suffer from that middle book kind of syndrome of trying to link the first book to the last book, and it just feels like filler content. And so that's why I don't always love trilogies. But I think that trilogies are less likely to have filler content than longer series, so I would go with trilogies. All right, and the next question is heroes or villains? Now, I would say morally gray hero or villain. I don't really have a preference for either one, but when the kind of motivations behind what the character is doing are dubious, when we don't really know if they're a good guy or a bad guy, I love that. So I think that would fit more with a villain, but I would take that in a hero too. All right, the next question is a book that you want everyone to read. I think everyone should read 1984 by George Orwell. I just think that one is a very timely read. That's one that always applies, and it's about governmental control, and I think that's something that people need to be thinking about. If they're not consciously thinking of it, they really need to. So 1984 is always going to be one that I recommend. And for one that's not a classic, I would say The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. But I wouldn't be surprised if this becomes a modern classic in the future. But I absolutely recommend that one. You get to see kind of an insight into police brutality and all of the things that happen with that with the Black community. And I think that it's very important that everyone should read about those experiences. It gives you a greater sense of empathy for people going through those situations, and it makes you feel less judgmental about that. So definitely ones that I think you should pick up. Okay, the next question is recommend an underrated book. So I have two for this. The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls. This is a memoir, so I didn't mention this in my memoir video because she's not really a famous celebrity, but it's super underrated. It's kind of about her nomadic existence and unconventional childhood, but I highly recommend it. This one is such a profound read, and I read this maybe 10 years ago or so, and it's still really stuck with me, so I think it's one you should definitely read. All right, and the other book that I have to recommend that is super underrated, I think, is this book. It's In the Time of the Butterflies by Julia Alvarez, and this one is about the Mirabal sisters who kind of joined this rebellion against this dictator in the Dominican Republic named Rafael Trujillo. So it's kind of about their resistance to that movement and what happens to them as a result of it. It's definitely one I really recommend, and I think that it's super underrated, but it gives you a lot of insight into what it is like to be part of like a dictatorship and trying to fight against that within the country. So definitely one I think everyone should read. All right, the next question is the last book you finished. And the last book I happen to just have finished is actually Mockingjay by Suzanne Collins. This is the last book in the Hunger Games trilogy, and this finishes my reread of the trilogy before reading Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes and Sunrise on the Reaping for the first time. I tried to read Ballad a couple of years ago and just couldn't get into it, so now I'm planning to read it and then jump into Sunrise on the Reaping. All right, the next question is, what is the weirdest thing that you've used as a bookmark? I think the weirdest thing that I probably use as a bookmark is either a receipt, an old pen, or maybe even a dollar bill. I know that I've used money as a bookmark in a pinch. I really hate dog-earing my pages, but sometimes I will do that if I really have nothing else. All right, the next question is, use books, yes or no? And I would say yes to use books, especially if they're on sale, if they're discounted. I also really love using little free libraries and supporting those. So yes to use books, but I'm not opposed to new books either. All right, and the next question is your top 3 favorite genres. So I would say my favorite genres are historical fiction, fantasy, and romance. Not necessarily in that particular order. Maybe that's the order for the moment, but they are my 3 favorite genres. I absolutely love historical fiction when it's combined with fantasy as well. So I love historical fantasy, I love historical romance. Any combination of those 3 genres I can get behind. I love romantasy as well. All right, the next question is borrow or buy? And I would say that I prefer to buy, but I am trying to get better about borrowing some books so I don't have to have so many books. I think that there is a conversation to be had about consumerism and over-consumerism in the book community. So I'm trying to get better about borrowing personally. All right, the next question is character or plot? So I would say character 100%. If the story is not character-driven, if it's plot-driven, that's fine, but I still have to be invested in the characters. So what that means is if I'm really not feeling the characters of a story, if I'm not connecting with them in some sort of way, and I do appreciate morally gray characters, so I can feel connected to those. But if I'm not connected to the characters, then I definitely will not care for the book, even if the plot is amazing. All right, the next question is long or short books? And I think that I prefer kind of medium length books, but if I had to choose, I would definitely choose shorter books. I love novella length books. I just love how quick and breezy they are. And long books can feel like a drag, but I've definitely been reading a lot of long books recently, and that's slowed down my reading a lot, and definitely want to kind of get away from that for a little bit after I finish Go Tell the Bees That I'm Gone, which is my current read. But definitely do prefer shorter books. I feel like you can breeze through those easier. All right, and the next question is long or short chapters? And I would say short chapters, 100%. I don't care if that book is 900 pages long or if it's 200. I want those chapters to be short. It gives me a sense of accomplishment, a sense of I'm progressing through the story, and it just is a good stopping place if you have to put the book down. I really don't love stopping mid-chapter, but I will do that for longer chapters. But I just prefer shorter chapters as a whole in general, unless there's a very specific reason, like there's a big battle going on or something, and that's the reason why you have a longer chapter. The next question is name the first 3 books that you think of off the top of your head. Okay, so Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert, Funny Story by Emily Henry, that's one of my 25 books to read in 2025, and The Hunger Games, because I've been talking about that trilogy the entire time I've been doing this video. All right, so the next question is what is the last book you just bought? And I think I went a little bit out of order with these questions, oops. But the last book that I just bought is actually Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. My copy of this book actually came in yesterday, so super excited to have this. And I can't wait to dive into it and let you know what my thoughts on it are. All right, the next question is books that made you laugh or cry. So I have one for each. So a book that made me cry, I would say, is Firefly Lane by Kristen Hanna. That made me sob in actual tears. I was not well at the ending of that book. It was insane. It made me so emotional, and I feel like books very rarely ever make me feel that emotional. And then a book that made me laugh, I'll say, is Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. That's one that I recently read in February, and wow, I was laughing so much at the main character's antics. She is a clumsy person, and just some of the situations and scenarios she got into in that book were really hilarious. But I recommend both of these books. Even though they evoked such different emotions in me, I still think they're excellent books that you definitely should read. All right, the next question is our world or fictional world? And I think I'm gonna have to say Our World, even though I do love a lot of fictional ones, but most of the fictional ones that I read about, I definitely would not survive in. All right, the next question is audiobooks, yes or no? Yes. I love audiobooks. I get a lot of my reading done through audiobooks because it takes me sometimes a while to get through a physical book or an ebook. I listen to audiobooks when doing chores, when driving, like all the things. They're just so convenient, so accessible, and you can use the Libby app. There's also the Hoopla app. There's a bunch of different apps out there that you can get free audiobook checkouts from your library. So if you don't already do that, you definitely can check that out. They're great resources, and they also have ebooks available on them as well. All right, the next question is, have you ever bought a book based on its cover? And 100% yes. I don't think I've ever bought a book solely based on its cover, but a cover is usually what attracts me to the book, unless I've already heard things about it, but it's usually what attracts me to the book and why I pick it up, and then I read the synopsis. I almost never ever pick up a book and buy it without reading the synopsis. I don't know, it's just not something that I vibe with. I have to know what the story is about. But I will say that an ugly cover, even if I like the synopsis, will still deter me from picking up that book. All right, the next question is book to movie or book to TV series adaptations. And I would say book to TV series adaptations if it's done well. Book to movies have been done well sometimes, but it's just not my favorite format. I feel like TV shows have more time, so you can really dive into more of the story of the book. And with movies, they're so limited on time that so many important plot points are usually just omitted from the final product. But I think I prefer TV series as adaptations. However, the Shadowhunters TV series, for example, not for me, did not like that, so they can really fail sometimes. All right, the next question is movie or TV show that you preferred to the book. And actually, I'm gonna come up with a recent one, and this is actually Firefly Lane by Kristen Hanna. I preferred the TV show to the book, which was surprising. And I also watched the TV show before I read the book, so that might have influenced some of my feelings on it, but I just appreciated more about Tully's and Kate's relationship in that one better, and the major rift that happens between them. The reason why it happens in the series makes so much more sense to me and feels more appropriate than the reason why they kind of grow apart in the books. All right, the next question that I have is series or standalones? And I would say series. I like standalones sometimes, but I just love being able to binge through a series. I love seeing a character's progression from one book to the next within a series. You get a lot of chance and time for the characters to grow and develop, but I just love that you can really see and grow attached to a character even more through a series and with a standalone. All right, and then the last question is to tag some people. So I'm gonna leave the people that I have tagged down below, and obviously if you're seeing this video, you can do this challenge yourself. Just let me know if you end up deciding to do this, because I'd love to see your video. Just tag me in it. I'd love to watch these back. I think that tags are so fun to do. I love them. I love doing them on bookstagram and now on booktube as well. If you've made it to this point in the video, I want to say thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you so much. And wherever you are in the world, whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening, I hope that you are doing well. And I hope that if you like this video, give a like, comment, or subscribe. Any of those things would be appreciated, and I will see you for the next one.